birthday, forever we see you. We wish it was our birthday so we can party too. Hey, happy birthday.
Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim and this is
Joy.
And this week it's Joy's turn to pick the topic, but also we are wishing Joy a very happy birthday today.
Yay! And it's leading because it's a birthday episode.
Is that the topic? A birthday
it's
episode?
It's a birthday episode. So shockingly enough, and cool birthday fact, I found out while looking up birthday songs. So you know how like a lot of shows will actually use happy birthday, like the actual happy birthday song, because the copyright on it is really expensive. And the guy who wrote happy birthday apparently is like dead serious about that copyright. I don't know how that works, but anyway.
I was going to say, I heard that because it used to be in theme restaurants here in the United States, the happy birthday to you was still in copyright. So if you went into a TGI Fridays or something and it's your birthday, they won't sing happy birthday to you. They would sing happy birthday. This is the birthday song. But apparently it's now not in copyright, I think.
That's what I was going to find out. It expired in 2017. So it is officially copyright free because his name was like William Oliver or something. I saw it when I was reading. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it said it went out in 2017. But he was dead serious about that copyright and made bank off of it for the rest of his life. But yeah, that's why. And even at TV shows, you'll always hear something like, "For it's your jolly good birthday" or something instead of happy birthday because the copyright was expensive.
Yes.
And he only let it out to like certain people and things like that, which is kind of ironic considering, it's used in everyday conversation and thoughts or whatever all the time.
Exactly. And the thing is, I don't think it was in copyright in the UK because I only heard of this after I moved here.
I didn't even know copyrights were country specific. Huh. Is there a copyright expert out there who can help us with this? Well, me and Tim just went blank. Are they?
I don't know.
How our friends at the patent office give us a call. Did you guys have an infomercial? We had an infomercial back in the day, and it was something about patenting your ideas. Call this number now to set up your patent.
I think stuff like that works differently in England. And secondly, growing up, we didn't have infomercials.
Well, there was an American infomercial where the whole thing was saying call 1-800-PATENT or something, and they would help you patent your ideas.
To me, that sounds like a scam. That sounds like somebody who wants $100 or whatever for your idea that someone else probably came up with.
Yeah, no, they're not doing it for free, Tim. I guess a patent's different than copyright, but whatever. If anyone's a copyright expert out there, friends, let us know. All right, back to the music. So what I did was I just picked out, of course, the best birthday songs. A few of them are, there's only so many songs that specifically say birthday, so maybe celebration songs, if you will. But of course, the number one is Birthday by the Beatles.
Yes.
And he wants you to celebrate. So it's a party, so you guys can celebrate. But what's always interesting to me about that song, Tim, is the breakdown in the middle. Like where it goes. So I guess it's a tambourine or is it a maraca?
Yeah,
and then you have the drum.
Yeah, because it comes to a drum break. And then there is, I think it is a tambourine.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, it has that, but it's just like a because very few, and we've talked about this, we know people have their feelings about Ringo Starr's drumming, whatever. He's a Beatle. That's all that matters, really. Very few of their songs even had any type of kind of breakdowns like that for the drums, but it's a very simple,
Yeah, it's like what they call a 12-bar song. It has got a slightly different thing to it, but the chords follow a very familiar pattern, and it's from the White Album as well.
Yeah. So that was my first one. And I've listened to all of these songs today as a celebration of myself, of course, but told myself it was in honor of my birthday. And I'm like, I'm glad nobody walked in and was like, are you literally just listening to birthday songs to yourself on your birthday? Yes.
Well, I think, Joy, as you know, it's your birthday. And if you want to listen to birthday songs to yourself, Nobody should take that away. I mean, when it's my birthday, what do? I watch my favorite Knight Rider episode, Let It Be Me from season 2. Or sometimes it's Trust Doesn't Rust, but on the whole, it's the one where Hasselhoff is in a band and he sings with Class Action. But that is my birthday thing, and I think if you wanted to listen to these songs on your birthday, that's what you should have.
Well, that's what I did, and it goes in perfectly to my next song, which is "It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to" by Leslie Gore, which has been used in about 1,000 TV shows, movies, whatever. I think since the beginning of time.
How old is that song? I mean,
60s?
60s or is it 50s?
60s, because I would say Leslie Gore was like 63, 65, because she had that song, and then she had the "You Don't Own Me" was probably her biggest hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had one song that was, what was it? Something about like sunshine, happiness, and rainbows is what I feel when I'm with you or something. Have you ever heard that? It's really weird.
Yeah, I don't know if I know that one. I mean, I certainly know if "It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to." I mean, I think that's been used in every TV show and every film and since the beginning of time.
Well, and it's one of those ones that's always used either ironically, like, "It's my party, I'll cry if I want to," or Charlie was talking about, I haven't watched this movie. Well, I think I have, but it's been a long time. Troubled Child or Terrible Child or something about some child who's like, what is it? Something about the little redheaded kid who's like mean all the time. Apparently he throws tantrums. Well, apparently there's a scene in that movie where that song starts playing when he destroys a little girl's birthday. And that's what my husband said it makes him think about. Because he was talking to me about birthday music when I was doing my research. But I don't know, what movie was it? I'll have to look it up. I think he said like Troubled Child or something about Satanist children.
I mean, as you know, I'm not the person to talk to when it comes to film facts.
Phil, if you're listening, fill us in on what movie that is.
Exactly.
Oh God, that's gonna kill me. It doesn't matter anyway. But it's either used ironically or it's used like when someone's destroying a party and someone's upset. But I always wonder, and actually there's another song on this list that I looked up how many times it's been used in movies and TV shows. So that's going to be a great fact. But I always wonder, because especially now modern day artists, it's kind of hard to make money just strictly off of music, right? Mm-hmm. It's your concerts, it's your merch, it's your selling perfume or whatever your stick is. How much people make though with these songs that are used forever in movies? I feel like that's got to be a great way to keep a constant stream of income if it's used that much.
I think so. I think as we've discussed before, music publishing is where the money is made, mm-hmm. and licensing your song to a commercial or licensing your song to a TV show or a film is where you make money. I mean, nobody's making any money on selling physical media anymore, and streaming effectively is free. People make a little bit of money out of it, but nobody's really making much out of it at all, unfortunately. Yeah,
and I just think, I know, like, I was watching somebody who was in one of those 90s TV shows from back in the day, and she says she still gets royalty checks to this day, and every once in a while a check for like 90 cents will appear, $5 will appear. And she's like, I'm still like getting these little royalty checks as time goes on. I'm guessing after they get syndicated or whatever, but...
Yeah, because, it's like the Rembrandts, they had a couple of songs, and then they came out with that Friends theme. Now, I'm sure that whoever wrote that never had to work again because it was very mm-hmm. popular, and it will be syndicated till the end of time.
And what is that one that is in Breakfast at Tiffany's, the movie? No, not Breakfast at Tiffany's.
That's an old film.
Well, yeah, but that's not what I was thinking of. The Breakfast Club is what I was thinking of. A breakfast. I had breakfast on the mind. The one, Simple Minds.
Don't You Forget About Me.
They say that they have made because Breakfast Club, not Breakfast at Tiffany's, Breakfast Club is such an iconic film that it's like associated with like a nostalgia feel, but also a school feel. Mm-hmm. That like Gap commercials, Old Navy commercials, anytime it's back to school time, that song is used to like bring the emphasis back to school. They said that they have made, and they hate that song? I know we've talked about that. They hate that song, but they have made so much money off of it being used over and over and over again to just reference school.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, I've never seen The Breakfast Club.
That doesn't surprise me. To be honest, I like The Breakfast Club. but it's more of a cult classic than one of my favorite movies. Like it's okay, and there's parts of it that are fun and whatever, but it's more of like there's like a group of people who are obsessed with it, you know.
Exactly. Well, I tell you what, Joy, it's a shame this is a music podcast, because we could do an episode, classic films I've never seen. It would be a very long podcast.
It would. Okay, let's start with every movie from 1990. What do we got? All right, next song. So this song is one that is a little obscure. It's Weird Al.
Okay.
Have you heard Weird Al? It's a Happy Birthday song. What is the name of it? And it's like he's talking about the end of the world, and like it's great that it's your birthday, but like the world's ending, we're all gonna die in World War III. You ever heard that?
No, I don't know if I've heard that. I mean, I'm familiar with the classic works of Weird Al, and so I mean, some of his parody songs are absolute genius. But he does. I think I have all of his albums in my collection somewhere, and he, as well as parodies, he does do original music in the Weird Al style. So I'm assuming this is one from like that.
It's original, but it's playing on like the punk rock thing. So you know the Dookie album from Green Day, the background that's like famous.
Yeah, I've got.
So
I
it looks like the picture of the Dookie album is like the picture that I always see associated with this album. I don't know if it's an album or if it's from I don't know enough to know why, but he did like a weird version of Dookie, and maybe that's the album it's off of, but I can't remember which one. But basically, it's like happy birthday to you. Well, what's the matter, little friend? You don't think this party is the pits? Well, enjoy it while you can. We're all going to be blown to bits. And then it talks about the pit of God. So it's a punk rock feel, so it's playing on the Green Day thing, but it's not like an actual like parody of one of their songs. It just has that. And I've only heard it a few times, mostly when I've been listening to other Weird Al's and it's come on the playlist. Mm-hmm. But I went and listened to it today. So it said it was released in 1983. So it's a little older.
Well, that
maybe
means
it's not. It's Green Day. What is the picture then?
Yeah, that would predate Dookie, because Dookie was 90s.
Weird, because I kept seeing the little, I guess it's just that art scheme makes me think of maybe whatever he copied is what Dookie was copying.
I mean, the Dookie cover is, do you remember Garbage Pail Kids?
Yeah.
The stickers? Dookie almost looks like one of the Garbage Pail Kid things.
Yeah. I'll show it to you. Yeah, it's like he's in a room, but I guess, okay. Well, I guess it kind of looks like it because of the color scheme, but the more I look closer, it's not quite Dookie. It's just like there's so much going on, you know, like it's got all the different pieces around it. Mm-hmm. That's what my brain associated it with. It's almost like one of those weird Where's Waldo things. If you look at the album cover, I'll post it in the group afterwards, but that's what I associated it as. Huh. Now I need to go back and do research and find out where this all started.
I tell you what, I regret not seeing Weird Al. He came to Roanoke 3 or 4 years ago and I didn't go.
We talked about going and we didn't go. And I'm like, to this, because Charlie, my husband's a huge Weird Al fan. I love Weird Al. I even liked some of his modern day albums were pretty good. Word Crumbs, which is making fun of blurred, well, not making fun of, it's parodying blurred lines, tacky instead of happy. That album was great. The one with Fancy where it talks about, it's also a play on what he's playing on this, the government taking over aluminum foil. Anyway, so, but yeah, I thought, well, looks like there's a little bus. I'm still looking at there's a disco ball. There's some, yeah, okay, I got to post it. That's interesting. Anyway, I do regret not seeing him, Tim. And I think me and you even talked about going. Like at work, we were both thinking about it and neither of us jumped on it.
I think I may have had a gig at the time, or the tickets were very expensive, and we were having one of our periods of enforced austerity. I think it was probably the combination of the two. If
I remember right, I think the tickets were pretty high. I would be worth it though. I would pay pretty good money to go see Weird Al. Yeah,
I mean, I've got tickets to see Joe Bonamassa in October, November, whenever it was, and all in, they were over $200 a ticket.
Speaking of this, so everybody who has listened, I have talked about this before. Because of COVID, I thought I had missed my opportunity to see Elton John. He is touring again in 2022, and I am officially going.
Fantastic.
Woo! Nothing happened between 2022. All of y'all wear your masks, wash your hands, stay away from each other, do what you got to do. Or I will personally be very upset with all of you.
Where is he coming to? Roanoke?
Oh, Charlotte. We're going to PNC, yeah. Okay. That's the closest we can go. But my twin sister had bought me tickets for my birthday, actually, ironically. Mm-hmm. And then COVID happened because, we bought them like a year in advance because trying to get Elton John tickets, like selling a thumb, they go really quickly. Mm-hmm. Why would I say thumb? Why is your thumb going quickly? Would it be like your kidney or something? How many people are hawking thumbs on the black market, Tim?
I think you obviously have more insider information on this than I do.
I mean, I feel like if I'm going to buy something on the black market, why would I buy a thumb? Like, not a kidney. I don't understand. Anyway, it's hard to get tickets because they go so quickly. So you have to buy them like a year in advance to go see Elton John, which probably doesn't surprise anybody. But yeah, and I was worried he wasn't going to tour again because he got really sick. And it was like a respiratory thing. So I was worried he was going to be like, nope, not for me. And this didn't. But so second birthday present, my birthday wish to everyone is to stay healthy so I can go see Elton John.
Fantastic. Well, I'm lucky enough that I have seen Elton. I saw him at Wembley Stadium in the 90s sometime. I think it was mid to late 90s I saw him. And I saw him on a whim. I worked with this lady who was going to go with her husband, and her husband was sick. And then she asked me on like a Friday lunchtime, she said, do you do anything tomorrow? And I said, no. She said, do you want to see Elton John at Wembley? I've got really good tickets. I'll give you the ticket for free if you come with me. And I was like, yes, of course I will.
What? You might as well have offered me $1 million. You were like, they're going to say no?
Exactly. So we went to Wembley, and it was the tour he did with Billy Joel. And Billy Joel pulled out the Wembley Stadium date because he was sick. So Elton played 3.5 hours himself.
Well, he's a heck of a performer, so it's probably pretty high energy. So
yeah, it was fantastic, and though it was a stadium concert, it was seated, and we were three or four rows from the front at Wembley, seated.
Outdoor concerts, in theory, sound really good until it's like 100 degrees in August, and then you really appreciate indoor concerts.
Exactly. Well, most of the outdoor concerts I've ever been to, the stadium concerts, were in England, where it's either freezing cold or it's raining or a combination of the two.
Well, that still sounds terrible too.
Yeah, because I saw the Rolling Stones at Wembley Stadium Voodoo Lounge tour, and it tipped down with rain.
I guess that's common though in England all the time.
Yeah, and when I saw Bon Jovi and Van Halen at Wembley Stadium as well, I seem to remember as the night came in, it got sort of cold and I wasn't adequately dressed for the occasion.
So you lost a thumb by the end of the night. Tim was the one selling it on the black market because he lost it in the concert. No, when we went and saw the Offspring 2-3 years back, I went to Charlotte and we stayed the night because Charlotte, for those who don't know, is one of our major hubs, but it is a pretty good drive. You're in the car for a while. You can do it there and back, but if you're there all evening at a concert, you're very tired by the time you have to drive home. Sometimes better just to get a hotel and stay and then leave the next morning.
Sure.
So, and that's just for people who aren't in this area. But we went down, and when we got there, we were staying in a pretty tall hotel, and we were towards the top. We got all our stuff, set all our stuff down. We're thinking about what we wanted to eat before we went to the concert. So, and then a huge storm came in, and I mean, it felt like a hurricane came in, and where we were really tall, it was shaking all the windows, and there was lightning and there was thunder. It was actually kind of scary storm, because Charlotte's also more you're going to get more tropical type weather. So I remember I was following the concert updates on my phone because I was really upset if I was going to miss this. I love the Offspring. They're one of my all-time favorite bands, and I was going to be super disappointed if I did not get to go see them. So I'm just following, and everybody's people have been driving for ever, to go. Mm-hmm. And they're and people are posting on the page, I drove all the way from this city and this state and and they're just sitting in their cars hoping it's going to open. And I kind of had stood to myself to maybe I'm not going to get to see it. And then the sun came out. And they were they just opened the gates and people ran in. And I remember I was like, Charlie, come on, we're going. He's like, what? I was like, they opened the gates. I was like, I'm not missing this. And I do not regret it. Even though it was wet, I was so many people canceled that even though my seats weren't underneath the seated thing, they let me sit up there anyway because so many people didn't show up because of the storm. Yeah. So I got really close to the stage and I don't regret it. The Offspring's one of those bands that I think have been around for a really long time and is underrated. And they perform live very well.
Yeah, the only thing I know about the Offspring is "Pretty Fly for a White Guy," and the guitar player is called Noodles. I know that, and he had a Ibanez signature guitar which had a finish that was made of duct tape.
So I did not make you listen to it, but one of the first albums I owned was Americana, which is the album that Pretty Fly for a White Guy was on. And there's like a little boy on swinging back and forth. So it was like one of my favorite albums when I was younger. So then I just really got into their whole collection. And actually they've had hit after hit after hit for multiple decades. So you probably do know more about them than you realize. You probably have heard their music. You just don't know it off the top of your head. All right. That had nothing to do with birthdays, but moral of the story is I'm really excited to see Elton John. All right.
There we go.
So another song that came up is Celebration, Kool and the Gang. Now, the reason I mentioned earlier, I was curious to know how many movies, Tim, I'm going to make you guess. It's in the 100. How many movies it is credited to on IMDb?
So you're saying it's in the hundreds?
It's in the hundreds.
I would say 270.
203. So you were within 100. 203 credits on IMDb. It is on a soundtrack. That's crazy. 203 different albums that song has been on. And that's just on movies. TV shows, it was like, hold on. No, it doesn't specifically spread. I was hoping it would show it as separate, but it doesn't. So 207 or 203 actor credits, 26. Oh, Kool and the Gang has been in some type of movie special something 26 times, apparently. There's a July 4th spectacular with Kool and the Gang. The Stern. Okay, it's a bunch of festivals. Never mind. That's not that interesting. But yeah, so, I mean, it's a great song. And I was laughing because it was on my mind because I was watching a show recently and they made a joke about knowing Kool from Kool and the Gang because it's two brothers, Robert Bell and Ronald Bell. And Kool is Robert, the main brother. And he was like, yeah, he was making a joke like me and Kool hang out all the time. And he was like, Harry, no person in this building that if Kool from Kool and the Gang walked by right now, you'd be able to identify him on the street. And I was sort of thinking, that's actually kind of true. I couldn't identify him.
No, I mean, I know a few Kool and the Gang songs, and in fact, I've seen Kool and the Gang. When I saw Van Halen with David Lee Roth in Greensboro, North Carolina, which I think was 2012, something around that, 2013, something like that. Yeah. Off the back of their very last album, A Different Kind of Truth, they had Kool and the Gang as the support act. And a lot of like rock and metal fans were like, why Kool and the Gang? That's a bit of a weird pairing. But David Lee Roth picked them out himself. And he said, of course, he said, the show's a party. He said, you want to start with Kool and the Gang. Why would you not want that?
I mean, I agree with them. And they, whether you don't, I mean, I get it, metal, rock, whatever, but they're pretty good musicians. Like, if you appreciate music, you can appreciate, you know what I mean? Like they're good guitarists, their bass lines are really good. They perform really well. They're high energy. I can see how that could work.
The only question I have about Kool and the Gang, and this is after seeing them perform. Now, as we've said before, modern music these days, there's not a lot of money to be made in it. And,
True.
and maybe they're living off their Celebrations royalties, though I don't know if they all had writing credits on it. But the question I have is that Van Halen has 4 people on stage. The band I play in has 5 people in it. Kool and the Gang has about 17 people in it. There's a horn section and there's backing singers and there's
trumpet.
This and there's trumpet and percussionists and all this stuff like that. So by the time you divvy up your gig fee 15, 16 times, I don't know how much money they're making out of it.
Well, that's why it's Kool and the Gang. That's his gang, Tim.
Well, maybe Kool is using what's known in the trade as Hollywood accounting, where he's getting 75% of the fee, and the gang having to split the rest between them.
Well, I mean, let's think about it. So they had the Celebration, the song, but they did Jungle Boogie, right? Mm-hmm. Hollywood Swingin'. I would say those are probably 2 of their most famous songs, but they don't have like a huge singles put out. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, they were a hit for like a small, like 60s to 70, maybe even 80s period, but I would not say they've got a huge catalog by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but I think the royalty money they're making, or whoever wrote it, the royalty money they're making just from those key hits must be setting you up forever. Because I remember Celebration. There's like little miniature chocolate bar things that they sell in a tin in England called Celebrations. And when they came out, Celebration was used on the TV commercial. And I'm sure that is not the first time Celebration has been used. And also, I had a regularish gig at the Lakeside Country Club in Frimley in England, which is a venue which is famous for darts. And of course, Joy, you know exactly where that is.
Yeah, I've been there a million times.
Yeah, I had a Christmas season there once with a band I was in called The Guilty Party, and we supported lots of D, C, H, G, F-list celebrities. I'm trying to go down the alphabet because some of them are not B-list and C-list. They were like...
They're below that.
Yeah, J-list celebrities. Anyway, they had a DJ there that had approximately 3 songs, one of which was Celebration. And every time I hear that song now, the act would finish and then there'd be a break before us going on, and it always open with Celebrate, and it's like, oh, come on, is that any song?
That's funny. That, I mean, I would, yeah, that would start to get on my nerves. I was listening, but you were talking about how many members of the band there are. I just counted, so they've had like multiple people leave and come. You know, that's not been the two brothers are like the solid. They've been there the entire time. 26 people have been in that band and come and gone.
Goodness me.
26. He has a really big gang.
I mean, the band I used to play in before I play in Flaker Hill, I play in now, worked its way through a number of members. It was very transient, especially in the bass playing area of that band. But I don't think there was 26 people that cycled through it during my tenure.
Well, sadly enough, they must not be making that much money because it says trombonist Clifford Adams Jr. died in January of 2015 at 62 after battled cancer. Adams had been in Kool with the gang since 1977, but he had no health insurance money or savings or anything to cover medical expenses. So whoever's getting the royalty fees, it wasn't the trombonist.
Well, that's sad for that chap, but I think it goes back to what I was saying, that Kool is creaming off the money, and the gang is
they're just hanging out.
they're living like paupers.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a sad note to end what was supposed to be a celebration. Oh, I guess they did have Get Down on it too. That was right?
Yeah, I remember that
so
one.
I would say that was probably a big one too, because I would say their tops were Celebration, whatever you want to call it, Jungle Boogie, Hollywood Swingin', and Get Down on It. Oh, wait, did they do Ladies Night?
Yeah, Ladies Night, that says.
Okay, so they've got that. I'd say that's probably their biggest hits. So I guess they do have a pretty good, and those are songs that I've heard used that you could be on to something. Kool's making royalties because if I looked up Jungle Boogie, that's probably been used in 1,000 movies, TV shows, and everything under the sun too.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean.
And then Hollywood Swingin's been remade a few times. All right. Now that you guys learned way more about Kool in the game than I meant to bring up, back to, okay, this one's a great one. Stevie Wonder, Happy Birthday. Yeah,
this is a song I only found the meaning of long after I lived here, because it was a hit in England, but the reason the song was written wasn't apparent to me at the time, and I don't know if it so much made the news in England, but certainly, I mean, obviously you've researched it, I'll let you explain, but...
Yeah, it was a pinned birthday tune for Martin Luther King Jr. as part of a campaign trail to get recognized as a national holiday, and it worked.
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't know that either, so it probably wasn't that apparent in America either until I was researching this and found out.
But yeah.
So that's how we made it a national holiday. So Stevie Wonder, being the most amazing person in the world, of course, would be the one to get something like that done.
Yes, absolutely. And I said I found out about it after moving here, and I actually almost performed it on Radio Freak Jam, and instead I did Freak Jam Made Everyone a Star instead. But that was one of the songs that I was going to do. But when I was reading through the lyrics, it didn't feel right to change those lyrics into something that it wasn't, which is why I left it alone.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, one of the Thursday night free jams did know that there was a couple who did it. He sang it.
Yeah. And they did it as the song
the
is
original,
written.
yeah.
But whereas I changed the song into Freak Jam, made everyone starting said a video killed a radio star. I was gonna because it was for the birthday episode of Freak Jam, the 1 year anniversary. I was going to change that song and change some of the lyrics around. But as I said, the more I read the lyrics and the meaning of the lyrics, it didn't seem appropriate to, in effect, parody that song and change the lyrics around. So I decided to leave it alone.
Good on you, Tim. But what I thought of, what I was thinking about, what I heard, that was, it was funny because, it's happy birthday to you. Remember when he performed it on Freak Jam, he kept saying to you, and we said it was the most British version because he pronounced the whole word. Anyway.
Yeah, happy birthday to you.
He was very specific. All right, some more birthday music. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Unsurprisingly, Morrisey, the Smiths, Happy Birthday.
Well, I'm a casual Smiths and Morrisey fan. The thing I always remember about Morrisey, and maybe this is a very particular memory for people who were around the same age as me, he appeared on Top of the Pops, which I think is something that we discussed a few episodes ago. And he appeared on there, and I forget what song he was performing. I think it was Panic, with the Smiths, I'm not sure. But he had what could only be described as some kind of shrubbery hanging out of his back pocket.
Weird. Did anyone ever ask him, like, what is this?
No, I'm not sure why, and I think I'll probably find the video and I'll put it up in the Freak Jam group. But that's something I always remember. I didn't know it was parodied by comedians of the day on their TV shows and what have you.
Well, all I think of when I think of Morrisey is someone who looks perpetually sad. So
he does, and he was parodied on a TV show. I think I've spoken to you before about Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer, the British comedians.
I'm sure you may have, but I don't recognize it off the top of my head.
No, okay. Well, they had a program called Big Night Out in the 90s, and they had a recurring character called Morrisey the Consumer Monkey, which was a monkey puppet which had the facial features of Morrisey, and he would give consumer advice about buying things mail order.
Yeah, that actually sounds amazing, truthfully. But, I mean, he's the only person I know who would write a birthday song and tell me that you're evil. I'm assuming you've heard Happy Birthday. Have you heard it, Tim?
Yeah, I've heard it. I mean, I'm more familiar with sort of the mainstream Smiths catalogue than that song, though I have heard it. But the funny thing about the whole Vic Reeves thing is that he did not find it funny at all.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't like that, apparently.
Oh, I would have found it hilarious, but that's just my humor. All right. But yeah, so Morrisey came to tell me unhappy birthday today, and that I'm evil, and that I lie. So there's that.
Well, Morrisey, lighten up for goodness sake.
It's a birthday, gosh.
Exactly.
Now, I'm going to go and say an unpopular opinion here. Don't come for me, Internet, if you are listening and this is against you. Birthday song, Don McLennan. Mr. American Pie is not my favorite. I think he has a nice tone to his voice, but all of his songs they're just blah.
Yeah, I think in the realm of Don McLean, the only song I know really is American Pie. I mean, that's what he's known for.
That's because every other song just sounds like American Pie. You just think they're all the same.
Well, I suppose he has a very definite style, and his style is American Pie. I suppose he wrote that, and that was such a big hit and so iconic, and everyone knows it. It's like, well, let's write another song that's almost the same.
Fair enough. I mean, and it is partially because he's usually playing acoustic. He has a nice tone to his voice. I do like the tone. It's a good richness. He's got good pitch. Like, I'm not saying he's not a talented artist. He's just one of those artists that don't stick out to me in any way.
Sure. He was performing locally. He was performing at the Harvester in Rocky Mount a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And I saw it. I mean, the tickets were not that expensive, but then I thought, I really just want to hear American Pie.
Yeah, I have to listen to 26 songs till I get to the one song I came for. So this is an obscure one, and she's not a modern artist, but this is a modern song. So Madonna did a song called, Madonna did one of her newer albums. It's called MDNA. I don't know if you've heard it. There was a bonus track on it. It's called B-Day Song. So the reason I bring this up is I had an epiphany while listening to this song. At the beginning of it, it says, and the beat goes on. So it's a reference to the song, and the beat goes on.
Yeah.
So I instantly turned on, and the beat goes on. And I realized that the beginning of "and the beat goes on" has been used in a Will Smith song recently. What song was it? Dang it. Hold on, I got to look this up. But it just threw me because I was like, wait a second. I started singing the Will Smith song when "and the beat goes on" started, and I had never even thought of it, because if I hadn't listened to that B-Day song by Madonna, I would have never went down this rabbit hole. But it turns out he sampled it, and I didn't even know. And I claim to be this person who knows this. What Will Smith song was it?
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Will Smith is, I mean, I'm not super familiar with Will Smith's musical catalogue, but certainly a number of his songs sample or reference other music. I mean, like Wild Wild West is Stevie Wonder's I Wish.
Yep. Oh, it's Welcome to Miami. Welcome to the beat is on all night. It's talking about a beat. To the break of dawn, welcome. I would have never even thought of it. Not even a little bit. And then I was like, wait a second.
And the thing is, it's also very fashionable to sample stuff sort of 70s funk, 80s, early 80s sort of electro type stuff. There's a lot of contemporary artists that continue to draw from those songs and sample those songs and use loops from those songs.
Well, I mean, and it's usually like, I hate to say this, it's like R&B or almost like rap or pop or something, playing on those R&B kind of almost disco or 60s, 70s kind of like. A good example would be, let's think about this, Fantastic Voyage. Coolio used it. That's a big one that I like the original and I like the newer version, but I mean, it's definitely a play on that fantastic kind of funk sound.
Well, also Coolio, he sampled Pastime Paradise, Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yeah. You were right. I think you were the one who told me that. I don't even think I knew it. But I just dawned on me. Will Smith, what's the movie he does about the aliens?
Oh, by Men in Black.
Men in Black, the song. Doesn't it sample something?
Forget-Me-Nots.
There it is. So now I learned something about Will Smith. It's been sampled. A lot of his songs have been sampled, which is fine. I like Will Smith. I don't think he's problematic or anyway. I mean, if he's paying the royalty to him and he's making hits out of them, that's perfectly fine. But I wouldn't have known that until I looked that song up today. And I can't remember anything about the birthday song. Something Madonna said, something that it's my B-Day. And I think there's another artist on it, but...
When you say are you sure she's not singing a song about some kind of European bathroom arrangement?
It could be. Knowing Madge, it could be.
It's my B-Day, and I'm feeling very clean.
Well, and I mean, it was just an obscure one. I don't even know if I had heard it until recently. And then I was like, oh, okay, I guess that could work for a birthday song. But I was like, but then I literally listened to the first 30 seconds, and then I was like, where do I know this from? And she said, hey, the beat goes on. That was the first line. I was like, that's where I know that from.
There we are.
I was like, oh, okay, Madge, I got you now. Now, another weird one, and this is more of what I think of the artist than the song. Carly Simon has a happy birthday song. Have you ever heard it?
I don't know if I've heard that.
Well, you're not missing much. It's early 90s Carly Simon, and she's singing something about a guy. And she says, we stopped smoking, we stopped drinking, we're no longer fun, just like going on and on about all this stuff about a relationship. And then it says, so just go ahead and blow out your candles already or something. I don't know. But my problem with Carly Simon is I don't think the voice matches the face.
You think?
I don't know what it is. When she starts singing, I feel like it's coming from somewhere that's not her.
Well, I mean, for me, Carly Simon has a beautiful voice.
Oh, no, it's a beautiful voice. It's not to insult her in any way. For some reason, my brain doesn't associate her with the song, with her voice. And I like her. And she's a great songwriter because she writes all her own music. She plays all of her own music, that kind of thing. For some reason, though, I disassociate her voice with her. I can't tell you why.
I mean, what do you expect her to be a brunette, or I don't know what kind of look she should have, or should she have a beard or something?
I can't explain this, Tim. It's just what my brain does. She opens her mouth and I'm like, oh, that's coming from her. I don't know why. It makes no sense. And I mean, she's had like, hit after hit after hit. She's been around for a while. But I don't know anybody who's not heard at least one Carly Simon song. So I don't know why, but that's what my brain does.
I mean, she's responsible for the joint second greatest Bond theme ever. Nobody does it better. I mean, there's that, and then there's Live and Let Die. They are the best ever Bond songs in existence. And she even name checks the song "The Spy Who Loved Me" in the lyric.
I should have known that's where Tim was going to go on his love for Carly Simon.
And you also, I don't know if we've covered this before, but You Also Vain by Carly Simon. It has Mick Jagger singing the backing vocal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about that before. Which, I mean, that's probably been used in 1,000 TV shows and movies, too.
It probably has. That's a great song.
It is a great song. And, of course, it's her number one hit that most people would generally know. Tim has a little bit of an advantage when it comes to the James Bond thing because he may have a slight obsession. But that's okay.
My obsession with James Bond starts with Roger Moore and ends with Roger Moore. I'm not really a fan of Sean Connery. I didn't mind... Timothy Dalton was all right, and Pierce Brosnan was okay, and anything after that, I've completely lost interest in it. For me, you have Roger Moore, and the best one of the lot is Moonraker by a huge amount, and I don't care what anyone says, that's the best James Bond film ever made. Maybe the greatest film ever made.
Fair enough. And then, of course, she did that duet with James Taylor, which she was married to James Taylor for a while. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure they ended up divorcing. She got remarried or something. But she also does like kids' books and stuff, like spoken word kids' voice books, because she has a really nice speaking voice too. I mean, I don't know why. I'm not saying I like her as an artist, but for some reason when she sings, I just don't associate it with her as I don't know. It makes no sense. There's no logic, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know. When I hear Carly sing, I can see Carly singing it. I mean, there are some artists you hear them sing, and it doesn't, when you see them, you're like, oh, is that what they look like? But I don't know. Carly Simon is not someone I would associate with that. But then that's just your thought process. That's how it is.
Makes no sense. Is what we're saying. All right, so we're going to talk about good voices and celebrating. I have to bring this one up because I am a huge Sam Cooke fan. Mm-hmm. Having a party. Sam Cooke's having a party. I don't know if he's necessarily having a Christmas party, but he's talking about putting snacks out on the table, which I associate with birthdays. So that's why I picked this one.
Yeah, and this is another one of these songs that's probably been used in 100 different films, and it's also been used in TV commercials as well.
Well, sadly, he is not alive anymore, so he's not making royalties off of it. We could do a whole episode on the whole craziness of his death, but that's a debate for another time. But, I mean, every one of Sam Cooke's songs probably been used quite a bit and everything, because one thing about him is he has a very pure voice. Mm-hmm. And it's distinctly him. Nobody has that sound. And he does what a lot of the Motown, what I associate with that Motown sound, or early 60s, 70s artists did that made them so iconic. There is no work or tension in their voice. It's very easy. It's very smooth. And it's literally like they woke up one day and their voice just sounded like that. It required no work from them.
Yeah, I get you. There's no rawness. There's no raspiness to it. It's almost like they're almost like they're speaking it to you, but in a singing way is the way I would describe it. And
I know what you're saying. I wouldn't say there is vulnerability. I don't want people to think that I'm disassociating feelings and emotion, because that's definitely there. 110%, but there's something about that tone. It's what I actually talked about. Dolly has the same thing, that like a lot of artists who are really known for their distinct sound, it's like it's so natural to them and you don't hear it very often. But I think that's what he did. And I actually watched a whole documentary on Sam Cooke not too long ago. He started in the church. just like a lot of musicians did back then. He was in like the church circuit and would go around and play. He wanted to break free of the church circuit, that gospel, but that would make sense because the gospel would lead into kind of a bluesy R&B kind of sound, very emotional, very raw. And then he wanted to break free, but like they didn't want to let him go because he was so good. It took him a really long time to get out of the church circuit and start doing what he wanted to do, which was more a pop type sound, or pop for the day, not what we would associate with pop music, but popular music of that time.
Yeah.
So that's how he got his start. And truly, I think a lot of artists get their start in the church, but he didn't read music. He can't read music. He learned how to write it over time and started reading it as he got older, but in no way was he doing that at a young age. So that's what makes it so crazy that it seems like it comes so easy to him.
Yeah, but I think a lot of popular artists cannot read or write music in a traditional sense. I mean, I can't read a note of music. I basically know music theory. Don't know any music theory at all. But I mean, you can throw me in any band you like and I can probably wing it. But because I'm blessed with a good ear, but I mean, you find a lot of artists don't know traditional manuscript and they don't know how to write things. I mean, Paul McCartney has written classical scores, and apparently, what happened is that he would create all this music and then he'd play it on the piano, and then he worked with someone to transcribe it so that then an orchestra could play it.
So that's what's funny is I was actually watching something recently where Paul McCartney was talking and they're like, why is your music so like memorable? So like, you know, brain sticks in your brain. So he's like, because we had to remember it.
Yeah.
And he said, truthfully, with some of the drugs we were on, I don't know if we would have remembered it as easily. It made me laugh. I mean, he was only slightly joking, but he's like, really, it's because we had to remember it. And he openly talks about they didn't like play music by technicality. Me and Tim have talked about this though, and sometimes it happens to me. He says it's happened to him before. I will be talking about something like singing wise, and I'll be like, okay, well, you know, that person's in their head voice and they flipped, and my husband will go, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know how to tell you how to do it. You just do it. And that's what I realized, that's why having a good ear is almost as important, if not more important than sometimes for musicians.
Sure, absolutely. Because I mean, there's a lot of classical musicians who will play with a symphony, who will be the best in their field, but they're only as good as what's written on the dots in front of them. And you take the dots away and they can't play those parts. Whereas like musicians who play in, you know, cover bands to some degree, but even original bands, everything you play, you have to remember. There's no pointers for it. I mean, I'm going to play a gig this weekend for 3 hours. That's 3 hours of music and all the cues and all the solos and everything is just completely memorized. And all the other guys in the band are exactly the same. And yes, you do feed off the cues of when the singer, and you feed off the drummer, and you feed off when it starts and when it stops and all that sort of stuff. But you are remembering that whole thing. And even like you were saying about how do you know how to change into this and how do you know what to change into that? I can hear like a guitar break and probably figure it out, but I couldn't tell you why it works or how it fits or why that scale is that. But I could probably play it. And then likewise, if I was working on original music, I can play along and go, oh, this will sound really cool and it'll fit. But I know a few patterns, but I don't know the technicality of why that note fits there and that note fits there.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. And looking back, because so I've been in a lot of choirs and things, so you know, you're constantly rehearsing. I've done musicals, I've done shows, I've done things like that. And when you're on stage, you're not thinking, oh yeah, that G is coming up. Make sure I'm ready for that. A lot of it comes down to muscle memory too. It's almost like you physically just remember to do things. And so then when someone asks you, well, how do you do it? It's like, I'm like, I just did it.
You just
I could hear it and knew that's what I was supposed to do. So that's what's interesting. And I think that's what plays into a lot of these really good singers back in the day like that, who probably weren't taking music theory all the time.
Exactly.
Anyway, so another great older artist that I think this would probably play into is Loretta Lynn. So she has a happy birthday song that once again wasn't all that happy when I started listening to it. Have you ever heard Loretta Lynn's Happy Birthday?
Do you know? I don't think I have. In fact, I was just going to check. I listened to a Loretta Lynn album the other day. In fact, but it was a contemporary one. It wasn't. It wasn't anything from her classic.
So this is definitely '60s Loretta Lynn.
This is an album called, what was it called? Van Leer Rose.
Huh.
And I listen because I listen to an album in its entirety every day, at least. I mean, normally I listen to multiple albums a day, but I listen to at least one album a day. And the little Twitter community I belong to that does this, they're currently having a first listen week. So you had to listen to something you never listened to before. And I had this in my collection. I acquired it from somewhere, I don't know where. And I decided to listen to it. And it's from the 2000s, and it has Jack White playing guitar on it.
Well, that's random.
Yeah, and some of the songs are what you would think Loretta Lynn music should be like. But a lot of it is like very contemporary sounding, but with Loretta Lynn's vocals on it.
Well, she was a talented musician. If you do research on her, she could do a lot of things with her voice, and she wrote all of her music and things like that. So that's not that shocking to me. Plus, I mean, they like to say, step out of their comfort zone. You don't like to always be grouped in the same type of music for the rest of your life. And she's also at an age now where she probably doesn't care.
No, do you remember back in the 90s? Do you remember the KLF?
No. Am I supposed to?
They did a song with Tammy Wynette.
No idea what that is.
Called Justified and Ancient. Don't you remember that?
Not a clue to. What's KLF?
They were a electronic music duo who were famous for doing things that were wacky just to upset the music industry.
Oh, maybe I do know who you're talking about, but I would have associated. I couldn't tell you what song they sang. I think I know more about them than their actual music. So they did a song with you said Tammy Wynette?
Tammy Wynette, yeah, called Justified and Ancient.
So I'm guessing it was wacky but different. Was it a country song?
It was like 90s dance pop, and it has a line that says, "We're justified and we're ancient, and they drive an ice cream van."
I'm so confused by all of this. Okay, Tim, you're gonna have to post that because I don't know what's happening right now. we drive an ice cream van. Okay, I learned something new. Usually when Tim talks about things, I have a general understanding, but that one, deer in a headlights, no idea what's happening.
Maybe they didn't make much of an impact in the US, but certainly they were a UK thing. They had a period of time when they were very popular, and they released a number of like dancey pop type songs that were very popular at that time. So they were the headline act at the Brit Awards, and the Brit Awards is like the Grammys. Yeah. Basically. However, the song that they 3 a.m. Eternal was the song, and that was like a big hit for them. And they were scheduled to open the Brit Awards with 3 a.m. Eternal. However, they decided not to perform it in the style of the dance pop. They got a thrash metal band called Extreme Noise Terror to perform it with them. And the guy basically just shouted the lyrics over the top of Extreme Noise Terror.
Okay, so when I think of this is a British thing. I'm just going to tell you the truth because it doesn't ring a bell at all to me. I mean, if it did, it might have been like popular here for like 5 seconds, but I don't think it made as much of an impact as what you're saying. In America, when we think of ALF, we just think of Alf, the TV show.
Oh, this is KLF.
Oh, I don't even know. I know so little that I don't even know the name of the band.
Well, the thing was about the KLF is that they, after this thing with Extreme Noise Terror, at the end of their performance, the guy said, "Thank you very much. We have left the music business." And everyone thought, "Oh yeah, it's just another wacky stunt." The next day, they deleted their entire song catalogue and said they wouldn't speak of it for 23 years.
Okay, so I'm looking at them. It says KLF are a British band formed in London in 1987. Hip-hop inspired and sampled heavy records as the Jams. Yeah, they don't even look familiar to me.
Yeah, okay, and they also did a version of, well, it was not so much a version, but it used a sample from the Doctor Who theme tune.
Oh.
It also referenced Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Part 2.
Maybe I have heard that. Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. That's them.
Yeah, Doctor in the TARDIS.
Okay, I got you. So I got distracted there because apparently they burned £1 million one time.
They went to the island of Jura up in Scotland. They burned £1 million. Apparently, they did it after the fact. They did actually regret it, but apparently, if you look into the ins and outs of it, they burned £1 million in cash, and then £1 million appeared in their bank account like 2 days later. So I think someone bankrolled the film they made.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, so it does look like they were mildly popular here, but they're mostly associated with Europe.
Okay.
Never heard of them. Tim, you taught me something very new today because I was staring at you like deer in the headlights. Like, what are you talking about?
But I will post the video of Justified in Ancient because that is actually a really good song, but it's funny that Tammy Wynette is singing nonsense lyrics on it.
Yeah, one of the associated acts with her is Tammy Wynette, and then something called The Orb.
Yeah, the Orb is electronic music act.
I will say, if I had to pick one genre of music that I'm going to have a least amount of knowledge of, it's probably electronic music. If it's not Daft Punk, I might not know what's going on.
It's funny. The funny thing is I mean, I tend not to listen to sort of quote unquote dance music. Mm-hmm. But some pure electronic music I find very appealing. And I think that's because I listen to quote unquote proper music with like guitar music and things like that. So hearing something that's completely different, and I don't like rap, but pure electronic music, EDM type music, sometimes is very appealing to my ear. And recently I've been listening to some Kraftwerk. Are you familiar with Kraftwerk?
No. I told you this. You're going to get 0 from me on this one. and
then this is a complete sideline to this, but Phil, if you're listening, kommen Sie bitte und listen to Kraftwerk. That's an Alan Partridge reference, but anyways, beside the point. But
okay.
Kraftwerk were like a 70s, 80s German electronica act, and they were incredibly influential. And if you go back and listen to Kraftwerk, you can see where Daft Punk got a lot of their cues from.
So I always associate, and this could be wrong or right, maybe you could help me. I like, how like there's like a culture of music that comes out of like Germany and different countries like that, that's electronic and like plays in like almost like it feels like they had like almost like their own version of like a disco kind of feel, but it was also I think like Cotton Eye Joe by Redneck type thing. That's where that's the extent of my knowledge, but I always associate it with some of the European countries, and I feel like there's like some subculture of them out there listening to that, but it might not be true.
It's possible. I mean, I was in Germany and Europe in the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure I heard that kind of thing on TV. I think it was very popular at the time.
I mean, that does make sense, and that could be. And like a lot of those songs did transfer over. Like, I mean, obviously I've heard that song before and different things, but I just imagine there's like a genre of people in Europe that constantly listen to that. And that's probably stereotyped. Okay. So back to birthdays. Let me see here. What else do we have on the list? I don't know if this counts as a birthday song, but I'm going to count it as a birthday song. Forever Young by Rod Stewart, because I am forever young.
Well, the thing is, Joy, it is your birthday, and you can count anything you want as your birthday song because it is your birthday.
Exactly. I mean, Elton John did tell us it's your song, and if I want it to be my song, I'll pick a song. Okay, anyway. So, but he tells you, sunshine, happiness, good fortune, wisdom, unconditional love. I feel like that's Rod Stewart's way of telling me next year I will be forever young. I'll have sunshine and happiness, so that's why I picked it.
There we are. As I said, it's your birthday, and you can have Rod Stewart's song if you want to.
Fair enough. And then another one that is I picked for Tim because this is one of the few modern day artists I do know he's familiar with. It's Katy Perry Birthday. Yes, I'm very familiar with that song, and I have the Prism Tour live. It's not even a DVD; it's a file I have on my computer. But I have the live concert that she released from the Prism Tour, and then she does that birthday song, and then she pulls some kid out the audience whose birthday it was. I think it was filmed in Australia, and then she sings a song to this girl she pulls out the audience. So I'm very familiar with Katy Perry's birthday song. I realize now that I don't know that she's singing about an actual birthday. I think there's some innuendos there, too. I could be wrong, but if you've heard the song, there's some lyrics there that I think have some indications that it might not actually be a birthday, but it has a good hit. It has a good pop hit like sound to it. It's fun. It's upbeat, and I love Katy Perry too. So
yeah, I wish I'd have seen her on that Prism tour that she did.
So did she go to prisons, like actual prisons?
No, Prism, not Prism. Oh. Yeah, she wasn't doing her Johnny Cash because she had an album called Prism.
Yeah, it had an actual prism on it. But when you said it, I thought you said prison, and I imagined her Folsom Prison bluesing it somewhere.
I would imagine. I imagine the provocative world of Katy Perry is not necessarily what you'd want in a jail.
You could be right on that.
Yeah, I think that might create too much of a stir. Johnny Cash is one thing, but Katy Perry cavorting about with backing dancers is probably not what you want in the jail system.
I mean, just because she chooses to wear clothes that put pieces of candy over certain body parts, Tim, doesn't mean it's provocative. And that song was about birthdays, duh.
Yeah, and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was about a painting that Julian Lennon did.
Yes, exactly. All of these songs are very literal. All right, I'm going to do one more. Speaking of songs that, we've talked about songs that haven't aged well. Mm-hmm. So, like, the You're 16, You're Fine in Your Mind. That didn't age well. Mm-hmm. Okay, this one is 16 Candles by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons about, love-stricken man. He's talking to his 16-year-old. And my question is I don't think Frankie Valli was 16. I could be wrong. He was young, but he looked more like 27. So as I was listening to it now and I was listening to 16 Candles, I'm like, I know this song came out. I know this because I looked it up. It came out in 1958. So I understand different times, but man, it didn't age well.
No, I know the lyrics of that song too. And I think in 2021, it's not cool, Frankie Valli.
Yeah, there's a few songs that didn't age well, but that one, and what's funny is, has this happened to you? Like, I guess we're becoming more woke, as the kids would say, or whatever they call it. But I'll be listening to songs like this. I mean, even maybe Earth Angel is kind of creepy now. Mm-hmm. I talked about the video with Michael Jackson with the girl. Like, that's kind of creepy now where he's chasing her and stuff like that. But I didn't realize now I'm listening back and realizing how they actually sound. But I've listened to them a million times before and never noticed.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I listen to music all the time. And then sometimes you do come across these older songs, mm-hmm. and then you listen in maybe in the inflection that they're sung in and the lyrics that they're singing, and you're like, ugh, that's not cool.
Yeah. And there's different songs of like well-known artists. Like we talked about the Baby, You Can Drive My Car. That one didn't age well. You're 16 and you're mine. Of course, the famous one around Christmas time is Baby, It's Cold Outside, which I'm not saying we have to cancel Baby, It's Cold Outside. If you like it, listen to it. But it can come off as creepy if you pay attention to the lyrics. She's literally trying to leave and he's holding her hostage.
That's true. But I mean, to some extent, some of these songs are just frivolous pop. And if you start reading too much into it, you can't enjoy anything.
Well, 110%. And like I said, I like to listen to it. I've listened to many different versions. I really like the Lady Gaga version she did a few years back. And she swapped it. It's the girl singing the guy's part, which is pretty fun. And I get it. It's supposed to be a play back and forth. She's in on the joke. He's just playing with her, cat and mouse type thing. But I understand why it didn't age well if you truly took the time to look into it. But then again, I've always wondered, and this is something I was taught when I was going, because my minor in college was musical theater, so I had to study theater too. And they said don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the original artists wanted from this musical or this show, or a play. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of true. They say, take your own, and this is true with music covers. When you hear a really good adaptation of a song where they've taken it and made it their own, they say don't spend so much time wondering what the original artist was putting into it. So it's all kind of interpretational.
Exactly. And I think that comes from any kind of song, not necessarily theatre, but just songs in general. Some songs are open to interpretation. So if you're performing a song, don't worry about too much what they thought originally. Just put your own spin on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then there's songs that are complete nonsensical, like the Crash Test Dummies. What is this really about?
Exactly. Or like my favorite one like that is I Am the Walrus, because apparently John Lennon, there had been some kind of university or something who were breaking down Beatles lyrics and John Lennon's songwriting, looking into the deeper meaning of what he was saying and all this stuff. And then he heard about this and he said, you know what, I'm just going to record I Am the Walrus and put nonsense lyrics in it and then see what they make of it.
Well, and then I've heard two different things from the Beatles. I think that were Paul McCartney said earlier, we just did really easy lyrics because we had to remember them. But I've also heard that sometimes when they were writing songs, they would just put in words that worked until they could figure out what they wanted it to actually be. And sometimes those words just got left in because they could never figure out what to replace it with.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, they were knocking songs out at a huge rate of knots. I mean, you think of the Beatles. I mean, that they were only operating for actually, in relative terms, a very short period of time, and they were so prolific. You know, they were releasing 2-3 albums a year.
And then, like, I mean, here's another example of a song that literally makes no sense. Do Wah Diddy.
There she was, standing in the street, going, "Do wah diddy diddy dum diddy do."
Like, and do you wonder? To this day now, I'm thinking about this. Was there a girl and she was actually singing that?
I'd imagine not.
And if she was, why didn't she come after them for copyright money? Could you imagine if you really were that girl and you're like, man, I was thinking I was just being humming while I'm walking down the street, and that guy heard me. Now I'm in a song. I'd be kind of angry. I should have wrote it. Well, I have said many times, you don't want me to write a song. I have no ability to write song lyrics. I've tried. And every time I've tried, there's a block. There's a mental block. I can't do it. And it cracks me up because then I hear songs like Do Wah Diddy. And I'm like, really, Joy, you couldn't have come up with that?
Well, I tell you what, I think we're going to leave it for this week, but I think that we will challenge Joy for next week to write some song lyrics, nonsense or otherwise.
That's a great episode if we ever do that. And mine will literally be, you'll be like, oh yeah, Joy wrote that. That makes sense. It's so bad. All right, bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.